Welcome to Epilogue at Dawn, Episode 2. And here we go. Happy 2025, the year of GTA 6, hopefully. Regardless, it's the year I start to figure out my future after streaming. This is Epilogue at Dawn, my new podcast that is simultaneously about reflecting on streaming, achieving some final creative goals in my final 16 months on Twitch, and looking forward to the dawn of a new chapter in my life post-streaming. Thank you all for the love and support and very kind words for the first episode. I enjoyed reading those comments. I really like announcing, quote unquote, my departure from streaming this way. It really keeps it close to the community and my true friends. So thank you very much for the support. And here we go with episode 2, which we're going to kind of tie right into that. You know, I don't want the attention of a big announcement type of thing. That's just not me. But I have this podcast, not for attention, but for a dialogue. Let's have a running dialogue of stream reflection, looking forward, and figure out what I'm doing after streaming is over for me in 2026. I just, don't feel like I'm the guy that wants to do it for clicks. Or, think about it this way. I will spend hundreds of hours making my Planet Coaster 2 theme park of Twitch memories over the years. And the video walking through the park at the end, when it's all complete, may not get any views or likes or whatever, but that doesn't make me stutter. That doesn't prevent me from doing it anyways. For me, for my friends, for exploring creatively more than ever before in certain ways, and for feeling accomplished, for fun, all the way down to like just fun. And I'm a big believer in like just being able to do things for fun. But unfortunately, life just can't be that simple sometimes for so many. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit later on. But the bottom line for me is I feel like I'm not the guy that cares about the numbers, the likes, the views, the impressions. Sure, I feel the dopamine hits when they happen. I see a video pop up. That's exciting, right? I started doing more YouTube shorts and TikTok content in the since like April of last year, and it's been really fun and really exciting and something to enjoy as a hobby, and maybe something that I'll like even continue as a hobby post streaming. But like, hobby is the key word there. I feel like, or like casual, maybe would be another way to put it. But ultimately, despite the dopamine hits and enjoying elements of that, I don't care for the chase. I don't want to be an influencer. It's just not for me, especially one of any recognition. See the channel name. I prefer unknown. I don't want to have a life in the public eye and always need to be online. And sure, not all these things are this necessary to a degree, but I just don't want to be that guy. And like, again, like, it's just simply not for me. And I think I knew that for years, but never kind of acknowledged it to myself until this past year. I think I've been too busy, funny enough to say, having fun all these years, which, is a good thing in a way. I think it is in a lot of ways. And there's the tie-in I was mentioning. I knew that was coming up. And I think that being just loving streaming and having so much fun with it, and you're kind of forgetting that, oh man, I need to be like making a career out of this and stuff like that, is like not the worst thing ever to do, or that someone can do. I don't think it's that bad of a thing overall. I think it speaks to how much I've loved and enjoyed my time doing this and continue to. I don't feel like the parts of content creation that I enjoy and that I care the most about can be monetized successfully by me, though, ultimately. On the flip side, the parts of content creation that are pretty essential to success, I don't want to do in most cases, like, long form, grinded out video editing, social media activists, promoting my stream, making content similar to others, grinding constantly overall. I mean, yes, I stream lots of hours each week and work many hours outside of stream, on stream things, upcoming ideas, content, new ways for stream to interact. But technically, quote unquote, that's not where I should be spending my time if I want to be successful, you know. And so I reached a conclusion on this, that instead of continuing down a road that's getting me nowhere professionally, quote unquote, I don't definitely got to use quotes on that. Like, I do not feel in my own sense that I'm a professional streamer. There certainly is professional streamers, but I've never viewed myself as that, and I've never viewed myself as wanting to like achieve that. I mean, man, Twitch partner was like a goal of mine way back in the very beginning, but I think ultimately that was the last time I had that goal was, pardon me, the top of my headrest on my chair is coming apart randomly right now. It's fine. It's not broken or anything. It just popped off. But, yeah, I remember 2020, I had goals for very ambitious goals. One of them being Twitch partner. And I thought I could get there streaming PUBG. And, but I don't know if I actually really thought about it. It seemed like the next step. 2019 had been so incredible for me. My stream had popped off more than I ever kind of dreamed it could, and but it was still awesome and low key, and but since then, and not achieving that in 2020, and just kind of not achieving that in 2020, excuse me, I got to talk a little slower. Since that and moving past that, I just haven't really thought about it in years now, honestly. I just have not really thought about it the last few years. And I don't know if that's, I don't know. I don't know why that is exactly, I guess. Again, I think it ties into, it's just busy having fun, doing my own thing, making what I feel like is a unique channel to hang out in with so many interactive elements, so many fun things, and, retheming it every few months throughout the year based on the time of year and stuff like that I really get into and have a lot of fun with, and then creating fun content just in general for the stream. And that's something I don't think I would really ever get tired of. I'm certainly not tired of it now as I go into my last 16 months or however many it will end up being, depending on GTA 6. If you haven't heard that part of it, where if GTA 6 gets delayed, the end of my stream career also gets delayed. I don't call it retirement because I feel like that's too serious of a term. Not because I think I'll be back one day. I don't. But anyways, that's we're kind of getting a little off topic, a little rambly as I like to do. Yeah. Kind of what I was talking about was I reached a conclusion that instead of continuing down a road that's getting me nowhere professionally, quote unquote, while I still enjoy what I do, absolutely love it, as I was just explaining, it's time to seek out a new chapter and do it intentionally so, while still embracing, how much I love what I get to do day in and day out, and talking about that and reflecting on that. I'm recording this on a Friday night after a great, very long Planet Coaster 2 stream today that I just kept playing and couldn't find a stopping point, couldn't find a quitting point. And it's just so fun. And that jungle of Twitch memories, I think I might try to start making into YouTube content as well. The park we're building in Planet Coaster 2, and we'll talk about that more in this episode as well coming up. But yeah, doing it intentionally so, while still embracing what I love that I get to do day in, day out, and furthering that by doing creative projects that I've never gotten around to, as a farewell to streaming. And that's what this next 16 months or so is going to be. I never wanted to or want to be big time on Twitch, and I feel like I came up with a fun analogy for this, kind of writing some notes down, reading a lot off of notes on this episode. I will say, I don't know if that's how the series is going to be, but that's how this one's kind of going down. Feels like a good comfort place for me to get back behind this microphone and record this new episode. Thank you for listening. Can't say that enough. But the analogy is, why I really want to never be big time on Twitch, and maybe it's arbitrary or maybe it's short-sighted or something like that. But you tell me. I frequently check two subreddits: Grand Theft Auto 6, GTA 6 subreddit, and AJR, which is my favorite band in the whole world. AJR, they're decently well known. They had their first arena tour last year. I love them. I absolutely love them. But they're not like, worldwide known like something like GTA 6 is, right? So one is a small subreddit, and the other is, fucking huge. And guess which one is more toxic? The one with more people in it, of course. And to me, it makes sense. And maybe it's a pessimistic view, but I feel like in general, of course, not always, but I feel like in general, the more people you have around, the more toxic it can get, and the less enjoyable it can be. Now, I still enjoy looking at the GTA 6 subreddit, but the place is toxic, and I'm probably most bothered by, I don't know why we're bringing this up on the podcast, but any excuse to bring it back to GTA 6, just know that's going to be a theme as well. On the GTA 6 subreddit, there's just so many people that come in and yell at others for just like being excited about a feature that they're speculating on, or like anything, and they're upset. Like, you guys need to go touch grass and stop worrying about the game will come out when it comes out. And okay, but like, dude, you're also in here, and you chose to come in here and read this, even though no one made you be in the subreddit, no one made you come in and read this, and certainly no one made you comment. Why can't you just let people have their fun? They're in a subreddit for a game they can't wait for the most anticipated game of all time that hopefully will be out later this year. So I don't little random aside there, I don't really understand that part's really frustrating to me. But again, I don't think that's just GTA 6 subreddit. I also don't think it's just big subreddits or when you have more people. But I think there is something to be said there. Like, the more people, the harder it is to, make everyone happy, I guess, so to speak, as well, in a sense of like, make content that they want you to make. And that just keeps going up as the bigger you get as a creator, influencer, whatever you want to call it. So I never wanted that, and I hope I've been talking into the mic decently. I think I have. I kind of get to slouching away from it a little bit on accident without even really thinking about it while I'm kind of just rambling. But yeah, I did feel like that was a good explanation of like, the AJR subreddit, of course there can be toxic people in any of them, but for the most part and again, it's two different things. I know that's maybe like a weird comparison, but I do think there's something there to be said for like getting big time on Twitch and having more people in your chat, having more viewers, having more expectations of yourself and expectations others have of you as well, or that you think they do. And maybe that's half the battle, right? For me anyways, of like what I think people expect of me and what I expect of me, or how I react to that. I mean, honestly, right there, I feel like that could be a topic for a whole other episode. Oh man, this is gonna be fun. We're gonna be doing these about every other week, a new episode, or about 2 a month, something like that. Excuse me. And it's gonna be great. So, now that I've kind of talked about what I don't want to be or do, let's talk about the opposite. I think, I have just a few things left I want to do as a creator. But they are some big things, the type of ideas that have just sat on my notepad for years. And we're going to bring them to life in the next, around 16 months or so, as I write my final chapter on Twitch and figure out my future. Excuse me. I need to get a drink here. We'll see. This journey, though, has already started in many ways for me. And what I kind of took here was some bullet points for like a tweet thread that I was going to send out, but I decided not to send out. I'd rather just kind of share it here. I feel like this is the place. This is the place. This is the place to do it. So here it is. The journey has already started in many ways for me. In the last year, I have started posting consistently to my YouTube and TikTok accounts and growed my YouTube a lot, and my TikTok recently as well, a fair amount. And it's been such a fun journey. It's been a good way to keep myself inspired and to get ready for GTA 6. cinematic edits that let the games speak for themselves. It's like a niche thing, I feel like. I think. And being niche is kind of what I love to do. Certainly with my Twitch channel through the years and with this as well. To me, it's just stand out and become a big time creator in 2025. You have to sacrifice so much time to the grind, as we talked about. Chase trends, do what others are doing, for the most part, in some sense, which I guess is kind of the same thing as chasing trends in a way. That's kind of like explaining it, just the same thing, but explained differently. But I don't want to do any of that. Video editing in my free time on my phone as like a leisure activity is totally my sweet spot. For both YouTube, TikTok content, and for streaming 5 days a week. I can't play the same online PvP online game every day. It's bad for my mental health personally, and it makes every day feel like a competition. When really I'm just trying to have fun, make interesting and fun content, and hang out with my friends. Like, that's it. that's what I want to do. And so much of my life is already a competition anyways. It's just life in general. I don't need more of it. I've kind of felt that way a long time. And finally kind of taking that and applying it to my stream and going from streaming a PvP online game, PUBG, every day, 5 days a week for years and years and years on end. And as the only game I played, basically, with like a rare exception here and there of some sort of variety. Like I played Planet Coaster 1 for a little while. I already have more hours in Planet Coaster 2 than I do in 1. I played Hitman for a while, played through that. Some of that series I didn't quite finish it, funny enough, in classic me fashion. And that's like kind of another reason why I'm doing all this podcast and announcing my leaving of streaming this way, is having a plan and like trying to stick to it instead of just like kind of winging it and being like, whatever. I thought about it for like all of 2024. I mean, I think even dating, I was thinking about this recently. I think even dating back to like December 2023, there were thoughts of leaving streaming behind. There were thoughts of leaving streaming behind and coming back for GTA 6 because I knew it was going to be a while. I did have hopium that it was going to be spring 25 for a while, and it seems like it was on track for that until May of last year when they moved it to fall. But I've once again brought it up to GTA 6 and don't even know how I got there. But anyways, yeah, it's I just don't need more of a competition, and it's really nice to just play games leisurely and still have like FC to play with my friends as the online PvP games, because I do like a head-to-head PvP game still, but I just don't want to play one constantly or have it be my only game. And I don't know why I had it as my only game for years in the case of PUBG. I don't know. That's the best answer I can give you on that, I feel like. I mean, maybe we'll find the answer through this podcast as we talk about it more and more. But, in the last 2 months, I also have, back to the kind of the bullet points here, I also started building a theme park of Twitch memories, as I was mentioning, is in Planet Coaster 2. It's a concept I absolutely adore. References to my channel, inside jokes, etc. I'm not sure how this is going to translate, if at all, to YouTube and TikTok content, but I think I'm kind of getting an idea for something. Maybe like a showcase, show a certain area off, talk about it, break down how we got really detailed with it, because that's kind of the whole theme of the park, getting really, really detailed, taking our time. And I recently decided that I'm going to, I think, spend pretty much all year up until GTA 6 release, if it comes out in fall, building just this one park. I was going to do 2 highly themed parks, but realizing 2 months in and over 200 hours in, that's probably not really realistic. So I'd also love to build a theme park with rides based on AJR songs, my favorite band that I previously mentioned. I think that'd be really fun. So, and that was going to be my other park, but I think what I'll do is incorporate that into the existing park, Jarrett's Jungle. In some sense, it won't be as much as it would have been. And then if GTA 6 does get delayed, I'll spend the extra 4 to 6 months, whatever the delay is, something like that, going to the AJR park, taking the elements I already made in Jarrett's Jungle, transferring them over, and building upon that and building a bunch of other rides and making it a full park. And so that could be fun. And I feel like that could be fun on TikTok and YouTube as well. Assuming TikTok is not banned. Maybe you're in the future listening to this, so we might have the answer on that. I'm recording this on Friday the 10th. I'm putting it out on Tuesday night the 14th. You in the future might have the answer on that, whether it's banned or not. So it's fun with these references to the channel, and I just know I'm going to spend countless hours making a handcrafted, highly detailed theme park that I adore and I'm proud of, and Chad is helping me with that as well. And it's just a really special thing that I feel like we get to do as another way to kind of along the epilogue lines. We're writing our own epilogue here and determining our own story in the last 16 months, hopefully. Of course, you never know with life events, but we're trying to plan it out, and we're trying to have a good plan for something in a good way to say goodbye to streaming. I don't don't love saying that out loud yet. I don't know if I ever will. But where was I at here? Planet Coaster 2 is also just, as I was saying, I'm late doing this on a Friday night, recording this podcast, because I couldn't stop playing Planet Coaster 2 today. I love it, and it's such an amazing way to pass time, for time to just disappear. I mean, 7-8 hours is just history in what feels like 2 hours or something. I don't even know. So it will help me pass the time to GTA 6, but we also should hopefully have a lot of fun GTA 6 news this year at some point. We will see. I also, of course, started this podcast, which was a longtime goal of mine, has been to start a podcast in general. I've mentioned this in the first episode. And I've gone through countless ideas through the years about what I could consistently ramble about, basically, and came quite close to different podcast ideas becoming reality. But then these two separate things, the desire for a podcast and deciding streaming isn't my dream anymore, came together to form this interesting concept where I get to tell my own stream story, my own epilogue, while also figuring out what comes after streaming, the dawn of a new era in my life. And in that area, I think we are going to explore some fun topics on this podcast, including my desire to try stand-up comedy one day. Maybe this year. I've been thinking about it. Super scared of that. Sitting here on January 10th, January 14th when you're listening, or later. Listen at your leisure. Always very much appreciate you listening regardless. Stand-up comedy, though. Something, I don't know. I feel like what I want to do first, and we might do like a whole episode on this if I feel like there's enough to talk about for a whole episode. Especially if I get close. If I actually go and do it or plan to do it, then I'm sure there'll be a whole episode about it, or at least a good chunk of an episode. I feel like I would want to go sit in on open mic nights first, just be an audience member, and then eventually go up. Not on one night. I'm talking about going probably multiple times beforehand to just kind of get an idea of the vibe. I don't know. Think about if my jokes will work or not, even though. How the hell will I actually know that? But yeah, I'd also like to host a radio show one day. That's random, but I guess I'm kind of doing that with a podcast in a sense. But I mean, when I say radio show, I guess I mean kind of like be like the DJ, welcome back to 95.3 Rock FM. Next up, Billy Joel takes us into the night, and then you time it perfectly. Right, with the intro to the song, and then stop talking right as the lyrics of the song start. Oh, I'd love to do that. I think Amazon has an app where you can host a radio show. They have all the music licensed. You pick the playlist, you set the playlist, you host it on mic. I think you can take calls, and you can have people tune into the live stream with a link or something, or on the app. I don't know if it's still around, but I looked into it years ago, and I was thinking about doing it. Maybe we'll do something like that just for fun. I mean, I don't know. Why not try it? It's kind of a bit of my mentality going into these last 16 months, or however many they may be. I guess I'll say 16 months, or however many they may be every time I mention it, just to be annoying. My desire to write a book. These are some of the topics I think we'll get into this year for sure, just off the top of my head. Stand-up comedy, host a radio show, Again, not probably like permanently, just kind of as a fun idea. And stand up is probably the same type of thing. I guess you never know. I don't see myself being somebody that would do well just living on the road. I would say that immediately about stand up. And that's like the first thing you have to think about, right? Actually, the first thing I should think about probably is, am I even funny to a mass audience, right? That's kind of the back to that idea of how many people are in the room, how many people are in the subreddit, how many people are tuning in or listening. And it could skew that feeling of, am I doing a good job or not, with the jokes, whatever it may be. The jokes with stand up, with jokes on stream, or whatever I'm doing on stream. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting tie back that I didn't tying back into what we were talking about previously that I didn't recognize. Was there. But yeah, desire to write a book. Kind of mentioned that in passing. I I kind of I mentioned in the first episode about poetry and writing a book in general. I love the idea of like having your words saved over time. The idea of like, not that I don't even know if I have anything amazing to say, but I do think that just existing is amazing and incredible, and just offering like a commentary on that alone, I feel like would be worth people reading 500 years from now, 200 years from now, 20 years from now. I don't know. But I came up with some different concepts and ideas for a potential book or books, including one about my time streaming on Twitch, a kind of a biography of sorts, or like, I don't know if it'd be a biography, because I don't know if I'd really get into much about. Well, I mean, I think it would naturally, there would be some stuff about, like a biography element to that type of book that's about my time streaming on Twitch. So yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. I talked myself right into that. Um, but that will likely, have some crossover with this podcast if that comes to be. If that book comes to be, it will, I think, undoubtedly have crossover with this podcast, like literally maybe taking elements of things I said in this podcast and putting them in the book, where it makes sense. I think it's definitely something I can see myself doing. And I've written some of it already, not a ton by any means, but here's a couple paragraphs I thought I'd share with the podcast tonight. Thanks for listening to episode 2 of Epilogue at Dawn. Here we go. Quote, I'm going to quote, I guess I'm quoting myself. That's okay. That's interesting. It may seem strange that I want to plan out my retirement from streaming 2 years beforehand and around a simple game. But this game is much more than just a game, and we'll talk more about that later. In the meantime, I think one of the reasons I like planning my retirement 2 years ahead of time was so it wasn't on a whim, because it felt like I've always done so many things on a whim. Close quote of that paragraph. That ties into what I was talking about earlier about like wanting a plan for, and that's a big reason to do this podcast, a plan, a dialogue, and a way to share my future and what I'm planning, and not just do something on a whim, not just not stick to something because I want to just keep doing what I'm doing, which is, I know I don't, right? I'm almost certain I don't. And I say that while I still love what I do. So, but of course, don't want to do it forever. And that kind of ties into our next quote, I think, which is another quote from the potential future book that may or may not happen. And here it is. Quote, I didn't give up on my stream dream. I just didn't want to pursue it anymore because it was no longer my dream. But it was something so important to me that I had to give myself proper time to plan and execute my final stream plans to give it all a proper send-off. Things don't last forever, but if they are important to someone, then I think they deserve, if possible, the proper send-off with time, reflection, appreciation for what these nearly 8 years meant to me. Close quote. I wrote this, in the past tense, like from the future. I was imagining like writing it, starting to write it now, certainly, and over time, but putting the book out after streaming is over with. Because I think it would be, yeah, I was thinking maybe at the end, but I think I'd want to even put in an extra chapter or something after streaming is done with like an epilogue, funny enough, in the book. So, yeah, so there's a little sharing of the book that may or may not become something. I do think it could be fun, and you know, poetry and that book about my Twitch biography or whatever you want to call it, are two very different ideas, right? But that are both like this at the same time similar in the sense of we want to, or I we I want to have some of my words preserved in the future. Like I think on occasion I maybe have something that is of value that I say. That's the best that I can do and say about that topic. but but yeah, I think you know, we're all part of the shared human experience here existing on planet Earth, which is quite mind blowing to think about overall. And I think it'd be really great to for people to hear about what we were talking about and thinking about, and not just me. I just mean everybody in general. I think poetry is such an amazing thing, a beautiful thing, and words in general. You need to preserve that. I don't know. It seems funny enough to say as somebody who's live on camera 5 days a week for over 6 years now. I think words are like kind of, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be comparing. Maybe that's comparing is kind of um the thief of joy. I've actually seen that as a quote. I'm pretty sure on TikTok, the same place I see this poetry and stuff that I'm kind of mentioning right now. Um, but I feel like words are maybe more valuable than like any other like similar type of thing, like video or or audio. I don't know, and I can't exactly explain why I think that either. Maybe I can articulate on that more in the future. But words certainly seem very very valuable, and um, I think it'd be really fun to pull some things from this and add on more thoughts over time. Revisit something I wrote like a while back and come back to it and add thoughts to it if I have new thoughts after reading it, right? And then that becomes the book, the podcast, and then some additional thoughts, like something like that. I feel like could be fun. But I think funny enough, I think I'd want to do before I've even made one, like in any sort of realistic sense. I think I'd want to do multiple. Um, and we'll talk more about some of my other book ideas in the future. I think that could be fun to talk about in the future. But yeah, that's the one we'll share for tonight. And then kind of getting into the closing here. If you listened this far, thank you. If you would like, comment the first thing that comes to mind when you think of this question. It's years in the future, and you're asked, what did Jer end up doing with his life after streaming? I feel like it's a fun thought exercise here, especially because I have no clue how to even begin to answer that question myself. So if you don't have an answer, I totally understand. But again, I'll repeat it. It's years in the future, and you're asked, what did Jer end up doing with his life after streaming? Whatever just comes to mind when you first think of that. I'd love to like have some insight on that. I think it's like I said, a fun thought exercise. And it's a question I just don't even know how to begin to answer myself. I suppose I could talk in like non-specific terms, like will I be doing a traditional job or an office job or an at-home work or a new creative field? And really, I don't know. Of course, I have no idea. But I certainly think that they are all possible, and I'm pretty certain as of this moment that I want it to be creative field. To me, life is so much more fulfilling when one gets to express their creativity to the world rather than, stare at the same four walls, do the same task day in and day out. In this one life we all get, I so wish more people got to do that. We could experience incredible strides in society and happiness and just good old morale, man. People getting to spend their lives doing, what they love is what I dream of. And I have certainly gotten to live a dream these last 6+ years streaming and continue to. And I thank you very much for that. And I appreciate that very, very much. And, but It's no longer my dream, I've realized. And that's okay. We're going to be figuring out the future coming up and reflecting on these last many months left of streaming. And I just want to thank you for listening very, very much to another episode. I'm kind of slowing down here as I realize it's ending. I'm really thankful to you listening to this and to you supporting me in getting to live an absolute dream these last six plus years. And this was kind of like another setup episode here of kind of setting up the whole podcast. But we did get into some more specific things, and I think that's where it'll be going, and that's where it'll be trending to. This was kind of another little preview one, but once again felt great, and it felt great to come in and chat with you and share these thoughts. Thanks so much for the support, and we will see you in the next episode.